February 15th, 2017, special Valentine's Day edition. So we're going to start by calling the rolls for each of the boards. Let's start with police. Kevin?
Good morning. Representing the PBA,
Joe Alejandro, designee for Patrick Lynch, Mubarak Abdul-Jabbar, John Puglisi, and I have the proxy for Corey Crable.
okay, DEA,
Michael Palladino, DEA.
SBA,
Gary DeRosa, proxy for Ed Mullins.
LBA,
Steve Abelia, designee for Lou Turco and proxy for Roy Richter, CEA.
Commissioner of Finance,
Antonio Rodriguez, designee for Commissioner Jacques Jihan.
Mayor's Office,
John Adler, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
Police Commissioner,
Rosemary DeBellis, designee for Police Commissioner O'Neill.
and the Comptroller.
John Dorsett, designee for Controller Scott Stringer.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Thank you, Kevin. Let's move on to teachers. Patricia? I am here.
Thomas Brown. David Kazansky. Deborah Penny.
Here.
Charlotte Beyer. Susanna Vickers.
Here.
We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Patricia. Let's move on to NICERS. Karen?
Mayor's office,
John Adler, present.
Controller's office,
David Jeter for Controller Scott Stringer.
Public Advocate. Present. Borough President Manhattan. Here. Borough President Brooklyn.
Present.
Borough President Bronx.
Good morning.
Borough President Queens.
Here.
Borough President Staten Island. Present. International Brotherhood of Teamsters.
Here.
Transport Workers Union.
Here.
DC 37.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Karen. Fire Department Pension Fund, Steve Cassidy.
Thank you, John. Mr. James Slevin. Here. Mr. Gerard Fitzgerald.
Here.
Mr. Eddie Brown.
Matthew Desjardins, proxy for Eddie Brown.
Thank you. Mr. John Kelly.
Present.
Mr. Jack Kelty. Present. Mr. John Farina. Here. Mr. Paul Farrow.
Here.
Mr. Thomas Phelan.
Here.
Commissioner Doug White.
Here.
From the Mayor's Office.
John Adler here.
From the Controller's Office. And from Finance,
Antonio Rodriguez here.
we have a quorum.
Thank you, Steve. And BRS, Sandy Rich.
Morning, John. BRS is represented by a new executive committee here in a quorum. Representing BRS is Isaac Carmignani, Michael Kraft, Benjamin Schildener, and Raymond Orlando. Thank you.
Thank you. Terrific. Okay. Everyone's present and accounted for. Before we start with our public session, I just want to ask everybody, for the benefit of Annette, our transcriptionist, to the first time that you address the meeting, would you please identify yourself for Annette? Okay? And I'm John Adler. I think that, Kara, I'm going to turn it over to Scott.
So thank you very much, John. Scott Evans, Controller's Office. Last time, you had Shachi Bhatt give you an update on compliance. And at our next SIM, Miles Draycott will give us an update on the risk operation. But today, I'd like to have Kara Schnapper address you. Kara, as you know, has come in as the head of strategic initiatives, kind of like an internal consultant. She's an employee of the Controller's Office, but works like a consultant in our operation, making change happen. And she's working on processes and procedures throughout the Bureau of Asset Management. She's going to focus today on some of the operational things that we've been doing, because that's been sort of the focus of change. We've changed the organization. We've changed some of the routines on how information works its way through BAM. But we've also been changing a lot of other things that she will mention briefly. You have in front of you, or you will soon have in front of you, a new organizational chart for BAM that shows the new organization in investment operation services. Carol will mention that in detail during her presentation, but I promised you a full updated org chart, and there you have it broken out into corpus and non-corpus employees. With that, let me turn it over to Carol.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
It was, you already got my name because the spelling is horrible, so I'm not going to do that verbally. I spoke to you about a year ago. Actually, it's almost, I think, exactly a year ago when I came to you and talked about what strategic initiatives was going to be doing within BAM, and it was very much in reaction to some of the reports that you saw, particularly the Funston report. So I'm going to give you an update today on where we stand, where we've had made major progress, where we've had some minor progress, and how things are going. So we called it the Roadmap for Reform, and we're still talking about the roadmap towards reform. For those of you with... Okay.
It's not in the book? No, is it? It's not in the book, it's in the portal.
It's in the portal. It's in the portal where? It's not in the meeting. Is it in the document library?
It's in the document library.
Thank you.
Should never be sorry.
Everybody got it?
Not yet.
It's not in there. It's in the document. It should be in your document library as public session. Sim slide presentation.
For some of us, we
Okay.
need you to walk us through this for the first line. Until we get this, maybe you can put it on the screens.
Yeah, it's on the screen. Oh.
So it is, Kara's presentation is on all the screens in front of you, and we can, and hopefully that's readable for all of you. We've got screens all around here. It should be in the document library, but if you're having trouble afterwards, we can help you find the document library. But in the meantime,
But what is it titled in the document library?
It's under the date, today's date, and it's the public session. It's SIM presentation slides, public session.
Okay. I have an expert working on mine in 2 seconds.
No, I got it.
She's an expert, too.
We had last month on my January 7th.
The Sims public session one seems to be the compliance one.
All right. I got it.
I think maybe there is a problem in the document library. There's a different file. So do we want to, we can, okay.
yeah. Why don't we?
Maybe for some boards,
Yeah.
we can figure it out downstairs. Do you want to take a minute while we re-upload it, or can you just look at the screen?
Just so you know, I mean, we have it. It's on the library's icon, February 15, 2017, and it's on the presentation slides, public session.
Okay, thanks, Joe. I think maybe just fire has an issue that I'm going to.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else has a problem with it. That's why I was
Thank
pointing
you.
it out.
Okay, all set? You ready to go? Okay, let's go. Okay, so those of you who have excellent memories would remember this particular slide, which is the way we presented it last year, and we talked about the roadmap for reform, and we talked about the things we were going to be working on in the next year or so. So here's where we stand in relation to those. The triple checks reflect things that we feel we've really gotten our hands around, and we feel very, very comfortable where we are. In progress, double checks. It's a complicated set of issues we were dealing with, so we've made some very good progress, but some of them need a little bit more work to keep going on. And even the items that are completed are not completed and done. They're things that we continually will make change with over time. Just to give you an idea of where we stand, last year, if you remember, we also talked about what our objectives were for 2016 in each one of the quarters. What we've tried to do here is give you a way of looking at the funds and priorities. For those of you who read it all, it was 400 pages long. So we're not going to give you 400 pages worth of initiatives. What we did was we tried to basically break them down into categories of things that we would be working on and thinking about, and the way we're addressing some of the issues. So what we have here is on the left is the funds and priorities, and this talks about what we've done through 2016 and where we've made some major improvements. As Scott mentioned, I'm going to talk primarily about the operational pieces. Shachi did a great job last time talking about compliance. Miles will come in and talk about risk. So let's talk about some of the operational issues. The achievements we had in 2016 was we did a significant amount of work on refocusing the operations area. We've leveraged the State Street Bank's fund accounting, and for those of you who got into some of the work of what was going on within the organization, you know that we actually did the conversion to the State Street General Ledger as of June 30th, the end of the fiscal year. That was an enormous achievement for the organization, led to an ability for us to be able to use what State Street has, not do some of the double counting that we were doing, not do some of the double processing. What that also has done for us is allowed us to start the spreadsheet retirement. I think I mentioned last year we had 1,248 spreadsheets that we updated on a monthly basis. Those spreadsheets are large. We've done about 70% of them are actually gone, retired, and not just closed down, but actually reconciled. So we went back to every investment that we had across all of the systems. We've done a complete reconciliation on those. We've made some adjustments primarily around costs, not around market values. Everything looked very good in that regard. But we made the adjustments so that we are now totally in sync with State Street, our custodian. A critical effort for us to be able to free up resources to do some of the things we want to do going forward. Additionally, as I told you last time, we were going to make a few very, very targeted key hires, and we've done that. We've hired about 4 people that are very, very specifically skilled in project management, in fund accounting, in some project activities and some product specialties. Other than that, we've had a terrific opportunity to deal with the staff that we had within the BAM Operations Support Group. So we've been really working with the folks as we go, and you'll see in the org chart that I give you how many of the functions that we've done have changed within the organization, but we've largely been able to leverage the staff that we had, just giving people a new focus and a different type of an organization. We developed, as we committed to doing, what we called an organizational model for middle office. We have an organizational model for the middle office. We're in the process of rolling it out. We're not calling it a middle office. We're calling it investment operations support, and for actually a very key reason. We realized as we got into the process that we don't have a back office really in BAM. We use our custodian for that purpose, and most large pension funds do the same thing. So IOS is what we're now calling the name of our organization, and we're rolling that out, and you'll see it happening over a period of time. We also were able to put a lot of the building blocks in place to roll forward into the new organization, where we've got a KPI that you'll see, some key performance indicators that we're working with. We've re-engineered a number of the processes we have in the organization. We've worked very hard on our cash capabilities. We talked about that last time. What do we need to do about cash? Well, we found that the answer to dealing with some of our cash problems was not to slap a piece of technology on top of it. It was actually to dig into what we had, understand what we had, and start making changes. We did implement ECFM, which is a piece of technology from State Street, and that's been tremendously helpful for us. But what's been also helpful is actually just digging down to where our cash is. Why is that critical? It enables us to put the money to work for all of the funds. So what happens in 2017, and where do we go in 2017 going forward? Similar type of a look here. We're working with our custodian, and I will say that we have a much better relationship with State Street. We've gotten very, very aggressive with managing our relationship with them. We've become a better client, and they've become a better vendor to us, which has been which has been tremendous for us for them as well as for us. And working with them, we're able to, going forward in 2017, we're going to be taking advantage of a new data warehouse that they have. Why does that matter to us? Better access to information is critical for us to be able to manage the pension system's operational capabilities. So that's rolling out in 2017. We're continuing to build out our cash capabilities. We've increased our sweep capabilities, which enables us again to move our money, to put our money to work significantly faster than we had before. We've done a lot of work around stabilizing the operation and making it a standardized process. So we've built out, starting in 2016, and we're fully rolling out policies and practices. This was an item that was mentioned, that a lot of the work that we had done in the past wasn't fully documented. We're working on documentation for policies and practices. We're building that out across all of investment operations support. As far as technology goes, we've got a couple of major technology projects in the works. One is on the risk system. Miles will talk about that when he comes to speak to you. Another one is we've been looking at alternative asset vendors. Alternative assets is a challenge for a normal custodian because they really started their business working on stocks and bonds. They're not that capable around the alternative assets, and we had a lot of challenges around alternative assets. You'll notice that throughout the entire Funston report. So we've been looking at the capabilities of what other vendors have as well as what State Street has to make sure that we select the best possible vendor to manage all of the assets that we have. I thought I'd give you a look at some of the key performance indicators that we're using, which is the new way we're managing the Bureau of Asset Management. And this isn't just around the operational activities. So here it's pretty much of a crowded chart, but these are sample key performance indicators that we use, which are the metrics that we use to manage the organization. If you look on the very bottom right corner, you'll see the senior management tracking document. Scott uses this for every single week when we have our management team meeting. We list the projects that we're working on across all of the Bureau of Asset Management, and we make sure that we're focused on them to actually hit the dates that we commit to. You'll see some reds on here. No project ever goes perfectly. I'm sure you all do projects yourselves in your own jobs and other activities that you do. We make sure that the projects that we're working on are followed, tracked, and when we have a problem, we make sure that we cut through the roadblocks to our ability to achieve those things. Give you an idea about one of the projects, a KPI that we work on. If you recall, one of the things that Scott spoke to you about in the past was the idea that we needed to go out and visit our investment managers. We needed to go, kick the tires, see what people were doing, et cetera. So we set up a KPI around that. Here, for each one of the asset classes, we track whether or not we actually made the due diligence meetings that we committed to in 2016. What I think is really particularly interesting about this slide is not the green for what you've actually accomplished, but the blues. So let's talk about public fixed income for a moment. On this particular asset class, there were a couple of challenges in 2016. They were short-staffed. That's been fixed. They also were working on both the reallocation, the asset allocations, and some of the on RFPs or looking at new managers. So they really got distracted on other activities in 2016. You'll notice if you look at it's not on this particular chart, but the way we look at it within BAM, towards the end of 2016, the manager visits within public fixed income picked up tremendously. We expect for 2017 that all of our asset classes will come very close to 100%. And how would we have known that if we didn't have a KPI? So the KPI is critical for us to know what we're doing within the organization, and we use these at each one of our management team meetings. So,
question.
Yes.
How do you define 100%? You have a fixed I assume you have a fixed number of meetings that you're going to, that the goal is to hit in a certain year. But what percent of your managers across asset classes do those number of meetings cover?
For each one of the asset classes, we have a list of all of our active managers. We do not, the way we structured it is we don't meet, we are not required to go out to the inactive managers, the roll-off managers. But for every single manager for which we have an active relationship, we are required, according to the standard that we set within BAM, to visit once a year. So we have a one-to-one relationship. So if we go to the manager once a year, we mark that off as completed. That's what that particular metric is. In many cases, particularly for some of the managers, or if they're local in New York or whatever, the kind of meetings, we might see them more than once a year. But our target for this purposes is to go see the active managers once per year.
Ray, we weren't visiting any managers when I came in here. We were letting them come in to us. They would come in and they give us presentations. We had no travel budget, so there was no ability to go out and meet them. You can't do due diligence on a manager if you just wait for the CEO to come in. You don't have any chance to talk to the intermediate people in the organization. You don't have the chance to see the culture at work. So we asked our asset class heads to go out and visit every manager in 2016. Except I gave them a pass on the runoff managers. Not much point in visiting the runoff managers. We do due diligence on them and so forth, but it's not an active relationship, and so I didn't push that. I didn't think it was a good use of time. But it's a simple example of what we're doing here. Kara's regimentation is helping us to stay organized, even on simple things like making sure we visit every manager. We have metrics that we watch constantly, and it keeps us on track, keeps us organized, keeps us focused on the most important priorities.
I'm sorry. Just a quick point of clarification, though. I mean, historically, you have done on-sites for managers based in New York, though.
Yeah, but we have managers all over the place, and it's just as important to visit a manager that's in Cleveland as it is to visit one that's in New York. So we got this kind of warped due diligence policy, but we wouldn't go to Westchester.
Right.
Because we had to fill out 6 forms to take the train up there, and it was just too much trouble. So we made it easier, and we still comply with all the rules, but we changed the culture to a culture of due diligence and on-site due diligence at least once a year, once every other year for international managers. But in 2016, we went to visit them, and there was a lot of good information that came back from those visits that helped a lot.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hi. All right. I just was curious about the international managers, and it's every other year. Trips were made to Europe. Do you go to Asia? I mean, how broad are these trips?
Yeah, it depends where the manager is located. So, for instance, we have a couple managers in the UK, and the team went over to the UK. We did not stay any place that the Queen might stay. We stay in modest accommodations. We are very careful, in paying for plane tickets and everything. We go by the city rules. But if we're going to employ managers that are based in, I think these two are based in around Edinburgh, Scotland, we have to understand how they're working. Now, we can decide, as a system, we don't want to spend the money to visit them, and so we're not going to hire managers that are outside Lower Manhattan, and we can do that. But to me, it's a penny wise, a pound foolish policy. So we've changed the culture. We're not engaging in excess travel. We're engaging in solid due diligence.
I think there should be trustee field trips for these things.
Right. Trust me, you should see the schedule that the equity team had when they were there. They were in a lot of meetings. Not any time for leisure.
Okay.
Yeah, we just want to help shoulder the burden, Scott. These London
Okay,
trips.
it's a deal.
There's a lot of volunteers for that, I will tell you. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about what the organization looks like, because I think the organizational changes have been absolutely key in the ability to actually drive some of the changes that we've seen within what we now call investment operations support. It was the middle office model, but it's IOS. Reporting into David Jeter, who I will say has been the best partner ever. Truly extraordinary, I will say.
Valentine's gift.
The best. But reporting it to David, we brought in a new head of investment operations support, Lynn Fleischman, who's sitting somewhere in the back over here. And Lynn has been working tirelessly around reorganizing the group and restructuring the way we do activities. If you look at this chart, which has a couple of underlines, which you might not quite get from just reading it, the blue is really the way we were structured prior to the middle of 2016. We essentially had a public markets organization, an alternative assets organization and administration. There really wasn't other functions that were specifically dedicated to other activities. All right, so what we have done as of, this is the current state within investment operations support, is we've taken out a number of functions that were either embedded within what was in oversight or actually spread throughout the Bureau of Asset Management, or in some cases, things that we actually even weren't working on because we just didn't have the time and the people to attack these issues. And we've created a few different organizations. We have the oversight, which is public and alternatives, and the staff in those is a much more targeted staff doing quite different things than they were doing before because of the fact that we eliminated the double booking through both the State Street and our old QED general ledger. So that's been tremendously helpful. We have the Alternatives Investments Organization, which we had before, but their work is also a little bit different. We've created a couple of new organizations, one expense management, which is focused totally on reconciling and paying our bills, our account management team, and then we've got a small team that does research and system support. What this has allowed us to do by having this new type of an organization is do the stuff we were doing before, continue to eliminate things that weren't adding a whole lot of value, and take on a bunch of new activities that add a tremendous amount of value. So if you look at the green in the items on the bottom, these are activities that we've been doing aggressively throughout 2016 and are starting to move us into a new organization. A couple of places I'll just call out because they're kind of interesting. Invoice tracking and reporting. We would pay our invoices around BAM, sometimes when we got to them, sometimes when we got them, but we didn't know whether or not we were paying them. So we had some vendors who came in and said, you know, I've gotten paid in a while, where are they? And the stuff was scattered throughout asset management. We have consolidated all of that with a small team of 4 people, and those people actually make sure we get the invoices in, they validate the invoices, and they make sure the payments get paid. So we're really starting to see improvement of that. And Scott gave us a target a few months ago. He said he wants invoices paid within 18 days. That is a challenge, but it's actually a challenge that we're trying to achieve. So we're really getting more aggressive around that. Another area that's brand new in the organization is account management. Previously, account management was done a little bit by the investment strategy team, a little bit by investment support, a little bit by our State Street colleagues. It was all over the place. What we've done is we've tried to pull those activities together within a very small team. We have 2 people in it right now. It will go up to 3 at some point. That team really focuses on not only bringing new accounts on, but managing the lists of accounts. So we look at our terminated managers. When we have terminated managers, there's work that has to be done on shutting down those accounts when it gets to the proper point. And these teams are doing those kinds of activities. So by having focused groups with a lot of the same people that we had before, but focusing them on specific tasks and eliminating activities that didn't bring us a whole lot of value in the way we're looking at our activity now, we've been able to significantly improve what we're doing and setting us up for 2017, where continued change will occur. Here's how we plan to look towards the end of 2017, or actually I think it's the middle of 2017 is our goal for this organization. What you'll see here is another new team. It's called Third Party Services. That's a team that is not in place right now. We do a little bit of it in a couple of different places within the organization, and that's going to deal with some of this very, very BAM-specific activities that we do that are not specific to holding the portfolios and doing the custodial activities around them. That's securities lending, it's foreign exchange, oversight of some of our short-term trading activities, et cetera. So these are things that we're picking up new within 2017. You'll notice the way this particular chart is laid out, we've got 3 sets of colors at the bottom of the spreadsheet. The key ones that you look at is that when you look at brown, why does the brown stuff matter? Because by eliminating all of those spreadsheets and actually validating what we have within our custodian, being able to use the time that we had for those activities, we're able to start doing a lot of other things that we weren't doing before, which are addressing many, many of the issues that we saw in the Funston report before. And that's allowing us to significantly improve the organization. Again, a couple of things just to tie back that's going to be key in 2017, continuing to roll out key performance indicators. I think I said the last time, if you can't measure something, how do you know you've gotten better? And that's very important for us to be able to measure our performance. So we continue to work on that. One of our objectives for the coming year is to build scorecards, not just for ourselves, but for our managers. We want to go back to our managers and say, have they been good managers for us? Do they send us their reconciliations the way they're supposed to? Are they submitting their bills to us on a timely basis? Do they have overdrafts in their accounts? What is their performance operationally? Not as a performance as far as their results, but really operational performance. And we're providing that to our investment strategy folks, so that when they talk with their managers, they can say, hey, you have to pick up your game on this, or you're actually doing a great job as far as your operational performance goes. So a lot of these activities are things that we're picking up going forward in 2017, and will certainly continue to allow us to improve the operation going forward. Questions? Yes. Yeah?
Good morning again. Ray Sanchez, Borough President of the Bronx office. In regards to these operational standards that we are now improving upon and establishing across the board for our current managers, are we going to at some point express to the smaller emerging managers, listen, this is the kind of operational efficiencies we expect from the that we're imposing on our current base of managers, and if you're going to grow to be one of these managers one day, this is the kind of operational expectations we are going to demand of you if you ever want to actually get funding from the emerging manager platform and be seated and graduated to a full portfolio manager.
So a lot of these changes that Kara's talking about are changes where BAM is improving its game.
I got that.
Where we're improving things. But we do, Ray, to your point, we do ask managers, all the managers, to clear a higher bar in terms of getting us information better, cheaper, and faster. They, in turn, and this is where the 18 days on the invoice came in, particularly the emerging managers who are very dependent on the revenue that they get from us, said, okay, we'll work to do this, but could you please pay us within the same calendar year that we send you an invoice?
Right.
And we looked at it.
Right.
We looked at it and said, it can't be that bad. And the more we dug into it, the more we realized that we had a problem. We weren't paying anybody in a timely manner, but we were getting. It was most destructive for our emerging managers. So we've changed that, and we changed it very quickly. Kara and her team totally restructured how the invoices came into BAM and how we delivered them. And, you'll hear from some emerging managers today. You can ask them if we're paying in a more timely manner. I think they'll say, I've gotten a lot better. And I hope they'll say that. In any event, we're working on it, and so it's a give and take thing, and we do have a standard that it's required for everybody, but we'll work with them, just like we work with them on the investment side.
Yes.
So it says Plan Future, it says 29, so that's the number.
Tish, could you identify yourself?
Sorry. Letitia James, Public Advocate. Plan Future State Investment Operations Support, 29. That 29 represents the number of staff members who work in that.
I knew somebody was going to ask that question the same way I looked at it when we built the slide. It doesn't add up, but it does. Okay? Because what we've done is if you add across the second line down plus Lynn, so it's the 18, the 1, the 7, the 3, and the 1 should have to 29. So the underlying numbers are a subset of the other. So if you look at services, you've got expense management 4 and 3, that adds up to the 7 under services. So we've represented it just to give you an idea of actually where the people are seated. But the second line rolls up to the top. The second line plus Lynn rolls up to the 29.
And so the bottom line, those individuals are included in what?
If you look over at asset management support for a second, it says 3.
Yeah.
The 1 in research plus the 2 in system support equals the 3. So don't count those numbers on the bottom. It's a middle line going up.
And individuals who are now getting paid on time, the individual who's responsible for paying them on time is that fund accounting manager?
It's the expense management team.
Which
the 4. The 4 people underneath the services heading.
And that replaces all of these individuals?
No. That replaces. Oh, you're pulling out what chart are you looking
Looking
at?
at BAM's chart.
Yeah, that's everybody in BAM.
That's
Okay,
everybody
but
in
Kara had in the current state, a couple of times back, she's got the current state of this iOS support, and then the plan state.
What we had done around expense management, as Scott said, we've sort of looked across all of BAM. Originally, the way bills came into asset management was they came to the investment person, they might have come into the operations area, they might have gone directly to David, they might have gone to Scott, they went wherever. They were all over the place. So and sometimes, in many cases actually, in the public market space specifically, because that's where we have the bills, those bills would go to individuals who are handling that group of accounts. And when they were doing their reconciliations, these things frequently got to the bottom of the pile and they didn't get addressed. So we have pulled out that activity. We created a BAM mailbox. Okay, and into that BAM mailbox is supposed to go all of our bills, and that's how we track them and pay them. Now, I hope the imams who come in today and talk about this say that they see an improvement. Once in a while, we miss one, and we're still pulling together the little bits and pieces. But we do track it, and we have seen a significant improvement in both receiving the invoices as well as our getting them paid.
And within expense management, do you differentiate between alternative types of investments and any other types of investments, or all the bills are going into one expense management, but they're sort of different?
Well, actually, they're very different, and that's a good question, because on the public markets, they actually send you an invoice. On the private markets, they don't. It's part of their capital call and distribution process. They actually do the fees as part of their distributions. They'll either deducted from the distributions, and that's how they get paid. So it's not like you're paying an actual bill, whereas in the public markets you pay an actual bill.
And is there a unit that focuses on that particular aspect?
The alternative investments team. And one of the things that we've actually done as part of the intense amount of work on the reconciliations, and why this is taking over a year, which we actually thought we would be done quicker, is because the way every manager, not every manager, but many managers do things differently. They send their invoices differently, the way they handle their fees, et cetera. And you might recall that Scott and the rest of the team started a process for fee transparency as being a critical issue. So one of the things we've been doing is actually looking at all of the statements that we get from the alternative investment managers and making sure that we categorize those things so we actually understand the fees from every single one of the managers. But they're very, very different.
Thank you.
There's a great human capital story that's going on here as well. If you notice the numbers, the numbers didn't go down dramatically. And they could have, if this were a private business or so forth, we could have, because the functions that these people were playing had largely, all the spreadsheets largely replaced by the computer. And so we could have shrunk the staff. But what Lynn and her team did with Kara's oversight and David's tremendous knowledge of how things work, they enrich the set of activities that these guys are working on and give each individual opportunities to deepen their skill set. We're spending money on training. We had open positions that many of which are going to be filled internally for leaders in this various group. And you can see all the new activities. Some of these activities weren't done at all, which was not best practice. And some of the activities were done by the investment strategy staff that now, thanks to the SIM and thanks to our new policies and everything, are out meeting with managers more, not doing the clerical stuff as more. That's being done by investment operations support, and they can do it in a more efficient manner. So it is a very good story in terms of the opportunity set for the city workers that are involved here.
So are there any vacancies at this point in time?
Yeah, actually, we have a number of postings. We have I think we have 7 postings. We actually just filled one, so we have 6 postings. And when we posted those jobs, we posted 5 of them for internal candidates only. Okay, so we wanted to be able to take people from investment operations support, also other places within the city, and say, we think these are great opportunities for people within the city. And we had a number of people who applied for those jobs internally. We will, in the next 2 weeks, go through interviewing people, and we will place people in those jobs from internal candidates. So what's been fascinating to watch as this whole process is going on is that folks who really had been doing a very rote, mechanical type of a function, when given a broader platform to work on that requires them to think differently about what they've done, the number of people actually stepping up. So that's been very, very rewarding.
And last question, does ethics include, is ethics an oversight, or is there a?
Well, everybody has a responsibility for that, obviously,
But is there one particular officer focused on ethics?
There's compliance. Our compliance team has major responsibility for that across all of that, and we all work very closely with Shachi and her team and follow through on that. And in fact, we have one of the groups in here actually does some of the, when compliance does some monitoring of the funds, we actually work with them to see where there's something out of compliance, and we help to make the corrections when something slips out of compliance on an investment strategy or something.
To Kara's point, the monitoring and controls are in compliance, but in terms of executing ethics, it's every employee in BAM.
Yeah. Yes.
Antonio Rodriguez with the Mayor's Office of Pensions. I had a question with regard to the KPIs. Are those internally generated, or is there a platform and then you all kind of can modify it? I just thought it'd be interesting if it could be leveraged in other ways, certainly as the convene system is rolled out for kind of board things.
In my dreams, okay. Actually, generally, they are they're internally generated around each activity. We are hopeful that the data warehouse, which I mentioned, will be actually a very, very ripe field for us to be able to gather some information from that warehouse. But right now, we actually pull together from various activities. In some cases, the way we've created the tracking tools, like our accounts payable tracking tools, those tools are being structured so that they actually throw off the information for the KPI, so we can actually just pull the data pretty quickly. But most of them are actually manually generated. And it's rare that you'll see something otherwise. We do get a package every month from several of our vendors, a securities lending vendor, from State Street themselves, et cetera, and we pull some of those data. And there's a couple of them on the sheet that are actually State Street generated that are so critical to us that we use them as our KPI, but most of them are actually generated by us, various parts of iOS or other organizations. Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Kara. John Adler. On page 2 of the handout, I think that's the last slide of the presentation, isn't it?
Not. I think is that the Scott? Is that Scott's? Which slide? There's. Yeah. Are you talking about
the handout?
No, the handout. That's Scott's going to talk. Yeah. Scott. We are a subset of Scott's organization. I did not address corpus, non-corpus activities, et cetera, and that's in the next chart. We really were talking about functionally what we do as opposed to how it's split between corpus and city.
I can answer this question for you later.
Yes?
Identify yourself.
Okay, I'll identify myself for Mr. Adler's purposes. I'm Ray Orlando. This is, first of all, thank you. This is very interesting, and I'm really delighted that you guys are engaging in this work. Is there a way to get like a before and after, Scott? Like a dusty old moth-eaten org chart.
We can we can show you an
head
old
county wise. Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be super.
Right.
Thanks.
It's, I mean, Kara gave you, she sort of zoomed in on her organization, gave you a before and after, but we can give you the old BAM chart. Yeah,
that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the current and the after. The before is what you're after, and that's really 2 lines. You know, third part. It's alternatives and public, and pretty much that's about what we had.
Yep. Thanks.
Okay.
Just one question, Scott. This is more to Scott. When can we expect an accounting of what corpus funding is paying for each of these positions and stuff?
Sorry, in the you're asking an accounting of which are corpus and which are not.
Which are
so you have in front of you, Joe, an org chart.
No, I got it. I got that.
It'll tell you exactly who's corpus and who's city, by the color scheme.
And all the corpus positions that are listed are all within the monies that we have
Correct.
already approved.
Correct. The number of corpus positions has not changed. What is it, David? 70, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so all of this, we anticipated some of it. I mean, some of it didn't work out exactly like we thought, but we've kept to the 70 positions corpus that we talked about originally.
Okay.
And if I may
And the
just-
overall BAM headcount has not changed dramatically. What we've done is we've shifted assignments considerably, put resources in places that we needed more attention, and so we're still in pretty good shape.
And if I may just point out in the handout, the vacant positions that we may be talking about, some of them going into the into Kara's area, we have it designated the vacant corpus positions and the vacant non-corpus positions. They're a slightly different color. Blue is corpus and black is non-corpus. So I just wanted to call your attention to that, Joe.
I'm sorry, say that again? Blues corpus?
You'll see the key, the color
Right.
legend.
Got it.
Blue versus black.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Karis. As you can see, we've had the hood up in BAM, and we will continue to. The big items going forward, this was the big item for 2016, this restructuring of what was investment control into iOS. The big items going forward are RFPs for alternatives accounting that Kara mentioned briefly, and for our risk system. And many of you have been in the meetings with the potential vendors in the risk system. That is going to revolutionize the data that we have at the Bureau of Asset Management, and I think will help all of us to do deeper analysis in what we're doing. Miles will be here to give you a little bit of a preview of that next time, and then I think it's the SIM after that. You'll get more fulsome presentations on the risk platform itself. Please give us feedback afterwards about whether these special sessions are helpful to you, and we're happy to adjust them however you'd like, but they're designed to try to keep you abreast of the major going on in BAM that are outside of the investment matters that you deal with regularly. That's all we have for the public session.
Okay, so that's it for public session. Any other further comments or questions? Okay, so then I think motions are in order to go into executive session for all the boards. So again, let's start with police. Can we have a motion from police to go into executive session?
Police, motion to go into executive session.
I think Joe made it. You want to second it?
Yeah, I'll second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion of police to go into executive session, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Teachers, there a motion from teachers? Sorry, just say it out. What are you moving?
Motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion at teachers to go into executive session, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries at teachers. NICERS, do we have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion at NICERS, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. Fire, is there a motion to go into executive session?
Motion to go into executive session.
No, you can't make it, Steve. Right. Thank you, Jim Slevin. Is there a second? Okay, second, Tommy Phelan. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion at fire to go into executive session, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, now BRRS. I think we need a motion from the BRRS Executive Committee to go into executive session.
Yes, so moved.
Okay, Isaac. What's your last name, Isaac? Okay. Is there a second?
Michael Kraft, second.
Great. Motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion at BRRS Executive Committee to go into executive session, please say aye. All opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions? Okay, motion carries. That's it. All 5 boards are in executive session. Can we turn the cameras on?
All right. So we want to get a roll call to go into the public session of the Firefighters variable supplement fund.
So we need a roll call of trustees.
All right.
Okay? That would be John Adler.
Antonio Rodriguez is proxy, has a designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio and also for finance.
Anybody else? Okay. Susanna Vickers.
John Doessa has the designation of the Comptroller Scott Stringer.
Antonio Rodriguez.
Here.
Okay, with Gerald Fitzgerald. Gerard, I'm sorry.
I am here.
Eddie Brown.
Matthew DeStraw, proxy for Eddie Brown.
So we have a quorum for the meeting.
All right, next we'll do for the fire officers VSF.
Okay. Fire officers would be Jack Kelty.
Here.
John Farina.
Here.
And of course, John Adler.
Antonio Rodriguez for John Adler.
Susanna Vickers.
John Doessa, designee for Comptroller Stringer.
Antonio Rodriguez. So
Here.
we have a quorum for that as well.
right. Okay.
For both.
All right, next we'll do the police officers variable supplement fund.
Okay, representing the PBA.
Joe Alejandro, designee for Patrick Lynch, Mubarak Abdul-Jabbar, John Puglisi, and I have the proxy for Corey Grable.
Commissioner of Finance.
Antonio Rodriguez, designee for Commissioner Jock Jiha.
Mayor's Office.
Antonio Rodriguez, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
And the Controller.
John Doessa, designee for Comptroller Stringer.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Okay. And finally, we'll do the police superior officers VSF.
Okay, representing the DEA.
Michael Palladino, DEA.
SBA.
Gary DeRosa with proxy from Ed Mullins, SBA.
CEA.
Roy Richter for the CEA and also with the proxy of Lou Turco, LBA.
Okay, Commissioner of Finance.
Antonio Rodriguez, designee for Commissioner Jock Jiha.
Mayor's Office.
Antonio Rodriguez, designee for Mayor Bill de Blasio.
And the Controller.
John Doessa, designee for Comptroller Scott Stringer.
Okay, again, we have a quorum.
All right, perfect. Turn it over to you, Robert.
Thank you, Mr. Facilitator. Okay, so good afternoon. As you're aware, the systems did a new asset allocation last year. Now that the annual VSF payments have been made, we thought it'd be a good time to present to you the new asset allocation for the VSFs. The AUM for the VSFs are relatively small. The VSFs also have large cash flows out every year. Cash flow for last year was roughly about 10% for 3 of the funds and about 60% for the other. So we want to adjust the asset allocation to ensure we can easily raise cash in December and January to make these payments. 3 of the funds need their annual cash right before the holidays when liquidity, converting assets to cash, is starting to diminish. The timing and the size of the cash flows make passive management a better choice because they provide greater liquidity. We want to move to a broad and diversified asset allocation for both equity and fixed income. Therefore, we are recommending a passive allocation that mimics a 65% ACWI IMI and 35% Barclays aggregate split. Now, the equity move to broader passive index mandates provides greater diversification. So the equity move away from active management mitigates the risk that we withdraw a large percentage of the account to fund a payroll immediately after the active manager style has been out of favor and they've underperformed. Example of this would be withdrawing funds from a growth manager after a period when growth underperformed value. When we called last year to raise the cash out of one of our fixed income portfolios, the manager commented that they needed to get a waiver to disregard the guidelines or the fund would have larger tracking error. We weren't willing to grant them a waiver. The Barclays aggregate provides similar diversification as your current asset allocation and will provide the ease of taking money without having the problems of portfolio size. Now, the Barclays Aggregate Index Fund also has very low fees compared to the high fees from our active managers. So your VSF allocations are shown in your presentation packet, and John and I will be walking around in the caucuses if you have any additional questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
They can ask questions now, too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry, yes.
Are there any questions? Actually, I actually have one question. Because generally, very much agree with the rationale kind of laid out on your slide. I was wondering, currently we split the Russell 1000 and Russell 2000 in the equity spaces, and I was wondering, in the kind of the vein of simplification, has there been any thoughts about simplifying further and going to straight like Russell 3 or even a full equity mandate?
Sorry, for the other mandates or for this one?
For the VSF, I mean, in particular the VSF that, currently the equity is split between Russell 1, and Russell 2, and I believe it's both value and growth. I don't have it right in front of me, but I was wondering if instead of able to simplify the equity even more, has there been consideration to go even to just a straight Russell 3000?
For the equity accounts, I would definitely defer to John.
Okay, so I'm sorry, I thought you had it. Yes, we will go as simple as we can using the mandates that we have. The ACWI IMI is just a broad global index, and so we'll use the mandates that we have to match the ACWI IMI as closely as we can with the component pieces that we have. Antonio, sort of counterintuitively, the deal that we have with BlackRock, we've got unbelievably low prices, and with our other passive managers, we have very, very low prices in some of the active pieces. So we'll cobble that together in a way that minimizes the tracking error at ACWI, but also minimizes the fees that we pay.
Any other questions? Okay. That'll be perfect. So
I guess the question is, how would the boards like to move forward with the recommendations that BAM laid out today?
So if you're talking about a vote now?
If that's in the purview of the board?
The PBA, on behalf of the Police Officers Variable Supplement Fund, would like to table it for 1 month.
Is there any additional information that either BAM or your consultants could provide you in order to help?
I'll follow up with your office and our consultant.
Fire office is also going to table further information.
Would you turn on the...
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
We're looking for the model of expected projections and returns from our consultant, because the policy is changing. So we'll take, fire officers are going to table.
And the controls also would be happy to work with your consultant on providing any additional information for the fire officers variable supplement fund. Are there any other similar requests?
There is. The firefighters would also like to wait a month. Also, we'd like to see what the expected return projections are from our manager, and because of the new policy. So we'd like to wait till next month also.
And again, BAM will be happy to work with your consultant in order to help put together some more materials for next month.
Thank you, John.
Police Officers Superior Variable Supplement Fund, I move to accept the controller's recommendation.
And all right, I'll second.
Would you like to do a voice vote?
So all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, thank you. The motion carries. All right. So now that each of the boards are done, we'll have to exit public session or to end the meeting for each one. So we'll start with the firefighters variable supplement fund. There's a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to exit and adjourn.
Well, the firefighters.
Firefighters, yeah, we make a motion.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are now, the firefighters variable supplement fund meeting is adjourned. Next, fire officers. Is a motion to
Make a
adjourn?
motion to adjourn.
All right, there's a second?
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the fire officers VSF meeting is now adjourned. Go with the police officers next. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Police officers makes a motion to adjourn and go into our individual caucus meeting.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion been made and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, the police officers VSF fund is now adjourned. Now finally, the police superior officers VSF.
Motion to adjourn.
All right, a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you. Out from the executive session.
During executive session, the trustees heard recommendations from the Comptroller's Office as well as presentations from 4 proposed managers in the asset class of public equities. Action was taken, details to be made public at the appropriate time. The trustees also heard recommendations from the Comptroller's Office as well as a presentation from a proposed manager in the asset class of infrastructure. This matter was tabled. The trustees heard recommendations from the Comptroller's Office to terminate 4 managers. Action was taken, details to be made public at the appropriate time.
Okay, sounds good. All right, if there's nothing else, I would like to invite a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right, there's a second. Second. All right, any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, we are now adjourned.
Cameras are on.
This is just to correct the record from the report out from the executive session of the New York City Police Pension Fund. During executive session, the trustees heard a recommendation from the Comptroller's Office as well as a presentation from a proposed manager in the asset class of infrastructure. That matter, action was taken. The matter was not tabled.
Okay, so before we, so where are we at? We just need to report out? Okay, so we're in public session. If, Doug, are you prepared to give us a report out?
Yes, I am. I've been working on it for the last hour.
Okay, Commissioner, we'll turn it over to you to do the report out.
During the executive session, the board discussed various investment matters, reviewed personnel decisions, and also made decisions about which candidates to hire. We now need a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second. Second. Any objections? Hearing none, motion carries. We are adjourned.
In executive session, there were presentations for 4 emerging managers. Consensus was reached, which will be announced at the appropriate time. There was a presentation about an infrastructure investment. Consensus was reached, which will be announced at appropriate time. And an issue with respect to a consultant was discussed. Okay.
And further, the legal motion to adjourn is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Great.
All in favor? We all in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. I think
We're adjourned.
Executive session.
Okay, is there a second? Second. Okay, any discussion? All in favor of the motion to exit executive session and go back into public session, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please say nay. Any abstention? Okay, we're back in public session. Wait,
We're ready to go live.
Okay, great. Elise, would you please report out from executive session?
Sure. The board made 6 investments in fund-of-fund managers, details of which will be relayed upon contract. They voted to terminate 1 EFA manager, details of which will be released upon the termination. They voted to reallocate assets upon expiration of a contract, of which will be detailed upon the allocation of the assets, and they voted in 1 infrastructure investment, details of which will be relayed upon finalization and contract. They also voted to take 1 personnel matter.
Okay. Any further business? To adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn, John.
Okay, second. Is there a second? Motion made. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion to adjourn, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, please say nay. Any abstentions?
Don't abstain, Isaac.
Yeah, not for that one.
Adjourn.